Namaste and welcome to Journey of Enlightenment. I am your host, Dr. Gopaul. As usual, it is my privilege to bring to you our Vedic knowledge, Vedic culture, and Vedic philosophy. Each week we would explore different aspects of our Vedic tradition or our Vedic text, but in a manner that is applicable to our modern day lives. It is important for us to understand how these texts applies. Today's world is no longer the same as it was yesteryear. In fact, I do remember growing as a child back in my homeland in Trinidad and Tobago. As a child, there were so many things that we never knew, such as gated communities or walls. In fact, we were free to run through our neighbors' yards while playing hide and seek, or while playing marble pitch, or small goal, which was football in our days. It was typical for us to find any mango tree or chana tree, climb those trees, and what we call raid those trees, meaning we will pick all the juicy mangoes or all the nice channets and enjoy. In today's world, it is very different. We now live in a world with gated communities, high walls, camera systems that protect properties. We no longer enjoy the freedom to move in and out of properties as we once did. In fact, at some houses you would even see armed security guards standing in front. Times have changed. When we look at the scriptures, and today's scripture is the Ramayana, we look at the story of Shri Ram. Let's go back to the beginning of his life. In the palace of King Dashrath, where Lord Ram once lived, he lived with his three mothers. His biological mother, Queen Kausala, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi. Lord Ram had three brothers. They were Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughan. Living in a palace, one would imagine the level of security detail that would be there, guarding the premises around and guarding the inside of the palace itself. What is interesting is that many times we live a life where we guard our external possessions, our homes, our palaces, our vehicles, but we tend to leave open access to our mind. Many a times we might be more secure with our external features and very liberal with those who enter into the state of our mind. In the Ramayana, Kaikeyi had a maid, a humpbacked woman. The humpbacked woman came to her with ill intention, the intention of dethroning Shri Ram and placing Kaikeyi's son Bharat on the throne. According to the Ramayana, it says in Ayodhya Kand, verse 16, hearing these pregnant words and agreeable, deceitful words of the humpbacked maid, the queen, Kaikeyi, who was a woman with an unstable mind and was dominated by the celestial Maya illusion, reposed faith in an enemy mistaken her for a friend. There are many critical lessons that we can learn from this particular verse. One lesson that I would like to bring to mind first and foremost is an unstable mind. An unstable mind is a mind that is easily tossed to and fro. There is no equipoise to it. There is no quietude to it. It is a mind that is in a tug of war between one side to the next. It is a mind that exists in a perpetual state of turbulence. When our mind is not rested, when our mind is not focused, when our mind is no longer centered on core values, those values that guide us, those values that keep us on a straight and narrow path, those values that will take us towards achieving our goals and our dreams. When our minds are not rested on such value systems, we can become easily unstable. Secondly, Kaiki trusted in someone who she considered to be a friend, but was actually an enemy. An enemy that would eventually have much destruction in the palace. She allowed herself to be influenced, infiltrated by someone that she trusted, and she had no guards up. Despite the fact that Kaiki was living in a palace, surrounded by guards, surrounded by the warriors to protect her and her children, Kaiki's mind was left open to invasion. The scripture says that she trusted in an enemy who she thought to be a friend. How many times that happens in our own lives? We live lives where we tend to be very open in our minds. We allow our minds to be exposed to so many negativities, to so many negative thoughts, negative influences, negative company. We are so guarded with our physical space that we tend not to guard our mental and emotional space. There's a particular story that I know. It's an experience that I had with a very dear relative of mine. This boy grew as such a blessed child. A child with so much potential. He was athletic. One of the most wonderful personalities one could imagine. He was very giving, very kind, very hardworking. His friends were friends that were carefully selected. But time after time, he met new friends, different friends. The family was very concerned with the type of friends that he was now engaged with. Because these were boys who had a different value system. Their value system saw no problems, no issues with the use of drugs. They saw no issues with the abuse of alcohol. The boy's family on many occasions tried warning him about the new company that he's keeping. Needless to say, his old friends began leaving. One by one, his old friends distanced themselves from him. He grew closer and closer to this new group, and his family became more and more concerned as the days passed by. But like all teenagers, he believed that he would be strong enough. He believed that he had the resilience to say no. And at the beginning, when they offered him drugs, he said no, because he did not believe in abusing any form of illegal substance. But he continued in their friendship. After months, what became a fixed and set principle once upon a time now became a no problem, no issues. He said, I will not use drugs, but probably there's nothing wrong with it. The family realized that the principles that he once stood on were now being compromised, even though he was no longer using drugs. Again, we live a life where we are always ready to protect our homes. We erect large walls and large gates. But are we ready to protect our minds? The boy then started just sampling a little drugs at a time, a little marijuana at a time, a little cocaine at a time. But he said, I can stop whenever it is that I wish. Because his friends also told him the same. You can use this today, but you can stop anytime that you want. He started to use the drugs more and more. This boy became an addict, and he could not live without these drugs anymore. He lost his family. He lost his friends. He lost his job as a result. And his so-called new friends all became chronic addicts of cocaine and marijuana. Most of them were either in jail, and some unfortunately died. This boy became a cocaine addict for approximately 40 years of his life. He eventually died, unfortunately. The point that I am making is that as we go about life, it is equally important, or I dare say more important, that we protect our minds, not just our possessions. We protect our minds from those invaders who will corrupt it or introduce negativities to our mindset, to our lives, to our principles. How then do we go about making this change? How do we go about ensuring that our minds are protected? The first suggestion that I would make would be to be aware of our own awareness, to be aware of the conversations that we have. Are they conversations that compromise the principles that we stand on? Those principles of truth, those principles that abide by law, principles of goodness and kindness and self-care. Secondly, what are the conversations that we are having with ourselves? Are they conversations whereby internally we are conflicting with those principles and we are telling ourselves, maybe we can do something that is wrong and get away with it. Maybe just one time and that is all. Maybe I can try something, but I don't need to try it a second time around. Are they the misbelief, the false belief systems that we are feeding ourselves by our self-conversations? Let us be mindful of the conversations, not just on the outside, but the conversations that we are having on the inside, the self-conversations. Let us be mindful of those that we allow to enter into our emotional and mental space. Are they the ones who are encouraging us to grow, to develop, to evolve, that we can all grow together and become better citizens of this world, better contributors of this world? Or are they the ones who will ensure their deterioration and ours as well? Let us be careful with those who invade our private space. And finally, the mind is strongest when the mind is in a state of quietude. Let us go within ourselves and enter into that space where the mind remains in equipoise, undisturbed by the turbulence of this world. Let us go where the mind remains focused. Though the wave crashes at the foot of the lighthouse remains strong and sturdy. Let the mind be like that. Despite all the changes that is taking place around, the mind remains strong and focused. To summarize, let us protect our mind. Let us protect our emotional being. Let us protect our own state. Despite the fact that there are so many negative challenges in the world today, we do have control of our own lives. We have control with what is happening within us. In the story of the Ramayana, Queen Kaikeyi allowed a maid with ill repute and ill intention to destroy her, despite the physical security that were around. Let us be wise and let us live a life where we protect our mind, and in so doing, we are able to make a better contribution to ourselves and to our world, because a protected mind ensures that we live a life of evolution, a mental and emotional evolution. Thank you once again for joining me on a journey of enlightenment. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful occasion. I ask that you share our program, give us a like, subscribe. Dhanyavad. See you next week.